I'd like to go straight down the line, just have everybody introduce themselves, talk about yourself, talk about your company, what you do.
My name's Griffin Weston. I'm a technical recruiter at Digitalocean. We're based in Soho, but about just over 50% of the company is remote, so we're pretty distributed. Cloud infrastructure provider, you can think of it in the same way that we build all the same things that Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure are building, but we abstract away a lot of the complexity. We make it very simple. I support the growth of engineering, product management, product design, marketing, and community, so all over the company. To date, this year we've hired 97 people, probably hired another 90 through the end of the year, so growing tremendously.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, quick question for my audience here. How many people have been on an interview and then never heard back? Gone to an interview and then never heard back. So why is that? Why do people not hear back? Like, what is the process there for when you guys meet someone in the office and then, like, what's supposed to happen next?
One, it's a lack of transparency. There's also some element of human error. Like you talk about, you support all of recruiting, you support all of people. We're overwhelmed. Like there's so many of you, and look at us. So, like, there is some human error, and I just forget sometimes. But there's also the fact that rejections suck. Like, I hate rejecting people. It's my least favorite part of the job. And so I care about feedback being developmentally oriented, so it takes me a little more time, but it just sucks. Like, you're ruining somebody's day. And so, like, it's like, I have a lot of empathy and sympathy, so it just sucks.
What would be a good way to follow up and, gently remind you that you're excited about the potential of working there?
Another thing you can do just on the front end, if you do have an interview with somebody, ask them what the process is. Ask them for a timeline so that you can set the expectations of when you might expect something in return. What
would be a good way to realize, like, what's the next step? So maybe I didn't hear back, I'm bugging you a little bit. Should I say, hey, let me know what's going on? Is there another interview? Is there always another interview? Like, what's the standard process of going down the line? I was speaking to a lady in here who said she was on, like, interview number 3, and then it kind of just, like, went silent. So, like, what's the standard process for how many interviews they should expect at each company or a staffing agency? Like, what's the typical process here?
Yeah, one of the most common questions I get is, what's the process? When I have somebody apply to a job, we send out an auto response saying, this is what's happening. Like, these are the people that are reviewing your profile. They're actual people, they're busy, but they're reviewing it. We'll get back to you if there's some mutual interest. And if there's not interest, it's not because you're not great, it's just there's not a right fit right now. And so when there is somebody that's interesting to me, or my hiring manager, I'll reach out and say, hey, I'm curious about your background, what you're interested in, and I'll answer any questions you have. And so when I get on that call with them, I set up what the call is going to be like, and I let them know I will tell them the interview process. Because I want them to focus on questions that are more related to the team, the role, or the company, and less about the process, because I'm going to cover that. And at DigitalOcean, it varies based on function, but I'll stick to engineering. It's a recruiter screen. It's a 45-minute hiring manager screen. Most of ours are Google Hangouts. I give you the option, Hangout or call. Then there's a coding challenge, and that's open-ended, so there's no timeline on it. There's no timeline once you start it. You have lives, you're busy, work it into your schedule. Once you return it to us, we'll review it within 24 hours and let you know if you want to move forward. The coding challenge, use whatever language you want. Doesn't matter to us. We just want to see how you code in your thought process. If we like what we see, 4 45-minute hangouts with the team where you'll go over that code in one of them, and that's it. We're going to meet within 48 hours, and we'll know if we want to make an offer.
So on the follow-up, just to kind of get back to that, because I always feel like a lot of things fail in the follow-up, right? A lot of deals, a lot of things don't happen because we weren't sure what was going to happen next. So skipping the whole all caps and emojis, if I were to write you an actual letter, like how long after the interview should I write this letter to you? How often should I annoy you? Like, is there a point between not annoying too much and, like, restraining order? Like, where's that sweet spot right in the middle?
I let candidates know, like, at the end of my screen, give me up to 24 hours to respond to you. I'm usually faster, but give me 24 hours. I'm an inbox zero type person, so I will see your email. I also have a lot of filters set up to catch candidates, or scorecards, or feedback, or just like invites to recruiter screens, things like that. So I see your emails. I will get back to you. The best thing you can do for me is, hey, friendly check-in, just curious where things stand.
All right, so let's talk about the actual interview. I want to spend a little bit of time on that because a lot of people are setting up interviews, going on interviews. Let's give some advice to the folks here about what they should say, what they should bring, what they should do. You know, how do you like this interview? Like the best people that you see coming through your door, what kind of skills do they have? What kind of things do they say? What kind of things do they do during that interview process?
My teams, they want people that want to work with them, so I can have people come through the process and be all thumbs up, and at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, we like him, but does he want to work with us? Like, so show some interest, like do some research, maybe use the product if you can, if there's an app or a website, play around with it, do some research on the core values. Another thing that my teams love is don't tell us answers that we want to hear because you think we want to hear it, so don't BS us. Like, if you don't know something, that's totally fine. Like, you don't have to know everything. A lot of the interviews are gauging what you know, not how much you know. So if you don't know something, say, you know what, I don't know it. Or if you stumble in a question, don't let that ruin your interview. Come back to it if you thought of it later on in the process. It's totally fine.
So on the negative side, what do you see where people are just like, not necessarily maybe they don't have the skill set, but what have people done on an interview that's really like, you know, this is definitely not going to be a good fit? You know, I'd love to hear just things maybe to avoid, pitfalls, like things maybe people say or people do, or something that they shouldn't do moving forward on any other interviews.
Yeah, I had a pre-brief meeting. We do pre-brief, so whenever a candidate's coming on site, I have a meeting with the team that's interviewing them so that they know what we're looking for in this person. We know what area of the business we kind of have scoped out that they'd be working on, but it's also an opportunity for the interviewers to know, hey, you're identifying or looking for these two things. And so it came up like, hey, what do I do when a candidate's kind of blowing through everything I'm saying? Because they have to evaluate you, and if you don't give them any chance, then you're probably going to get a no because we couldn't evaluate you. So don't just speak. The interviewers have a mission. They need to get something out of it. And so listen. Don't listen to respond, listen to hear and understand. If that makes sense. Don't say a ton of negative things about your previous companies or people in general. That's a huge red flag. It's cool to be transparent. People leave companies for valid reasons all the time, but there's a fine line, and don't cross it. I posted something on LinkedIn a couple weeks ago, and we get a ton of resumes, a ton of cover letters, a ton of messages on LinkedIn. And if you're looking at that cover letter and the first word of every paragraph is I, so it's clear eyes, it's a line of them, it's like you're only thinking about yourself. How are you really gonna provide value if you're only thinking about yourself? So respond to a business's needs, find out what they're looking for, and try and identify a solution, or say, hey, I saw you're looking for this because of this. Just don't talk about yourself all the time. Like, don't make it about you all the time.
But I want to show off how awesome I am, right? Is there that fine line of like, you know, our team built? Do you want to hear that? I mean, does it show that maybe I was the weakest link of the team, maybe, but the team did great stuff, and that's why I no longer work there? Like, how do you balance that?
There's a lot, right? There's so many things that go into an interview, but I ask two questions of almost all my people is, what makes you good at X? Are you a product manager? What do you feel is your strength as a product manager? And then what is an area of development for you? Like, where are you looking to get better? You should be humble enough to identify that you're not perfect. Like, you're looking for something. And that first question, what are you good at? I want to hear that you're good at something. I want to hear the confidence you have that you are good at something, that you know what you're doing. All
right, cool. So now I want to throw out one question. I know we have a mixture of folks in the audience here, and several of them are junior developers. Like, the people have just graduated, maybe a coding academy or college, and they're just getting their first job, and there's not a lot of history to talk about. So maybe they didn't have any developer jobs. Maybe they had other jobs in the past. Do you want to hear stuff that's completely outside of the industry that they're now going into? Like, what should a very first interviewer, a job seeker for the first time, what should they be focusing on?
I want to know that you've identified something yourself that you want to do. So yes, I want a job, but what do I want a job doing? So let me hear your passion. Let me hear you're interested. I can already tell that you may not have a job. You may have just graduated. I know that going in. I'm aware of that. So what are you interested in? That is something that I can build on, and I can coach my team and say, hey, this is what she's really interested in. Let's focus on that.
Before we get to, I want to have everybody shout out a job in a minute, but I want to just leave this with really one good piece of advice for the job seekers here in the audience. So we can just go down there. What's something that's really good that people should really just keep in mind and remember while they're interviewing?
I touched on it earlier, but be curious. If you don't ask me questions about the team, the role, like what are you doing, if you think you know everything just by the job description, it's a bit of a flag. Like I'm probably not going to move forward because you're lacking curiosity, and I need that, and the team needs that. So ask questions, do your homework, ask questions. Look up, if you know who you're interviewing with, like look up their background on LinkedIn and say, oh, I saw you're interested in this, and ask them a question about it.
Just really quick, I just want to ask one more that you reminded me of. How many people typically apply for one job? How many people do you interview to fill one position?
I hired a couple people for a few different roles recently where we brought 2 finalists on site to meet with the teams, and we picked one of them for each roles. I've had engineering roles where I've had 1,000 applicants in a month. I'm getting a ton of applicants. So it really just varies. I try to only present like 4 or 5 finalists to a team, but we definitely screen a lot. I'm screening 20, 25 people a week personally.